Hi, everyone, and welcome to yet another episode of Unmuted, the podcast by Big Karma. Big Karma produces video games starring kick-ass action heroes who leverage their disability to win. You can find out more about that on patreon.com/Big Karma. Shout outs to our patrons of the week, Carolina Rickens, Sebastian Knopp, and Andy Richmond. This means the world to us, and you bought yourself a shout out. Now, there you have it. The show Unmuted couldn't have a better title today because we're actually welcoming somebody who uses his voice as a tool for his profession. Voice over and voice acting and impersonation legend, Jon Bailey, known also as the Epic Voice Guy. If you don't know these names, you at least know his work. Honest trailers for Screen Junkies, honest game trailers for Smosh, those hot YouTube sensational series, then lots of Hollywood work, Optimus Prime, we're going to get into the details of that, voice matching for Deadpool, Ryan Reynolds, Jeff Bridges. Anyway, without further ado, welcome to the show, John. Welcome to the show, John. So nice
Thank
to
you for
see
having
you this
me.
morning.
Nice to see and hear you for now.
Yeah, let's
It's an
hope we
inside
don't have
joke, folks.
technical problems. Yeah, Santana knows what we're talking about. Shout out to Santana, our last episode, who suffered through terrible technical problems, which we hope we're not going to have today.
Fingers
And
crossed.
today, as I was saying during the intro, the show couldn't be better named, Unmuted. It was a lame title we came up with during the pandemic because it was all about unmute yourself, we can't hear you.
Right.
New guide to the recording. But for you, it fits because you use your voice as a tool, and
That's it,
fantastically,
yeah.
I mean.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, we've worked together on a couple of things that unfortunately didn't air. I'm sure it happens a lot in your business. It
Yeah,
happens
it
a lot
does.
in mine.
As long as we still get paid.
Yeah, and you did. That was. It doesn't always happen, right?
Yeah, people forget a lot of the times that there's jobs out there that you do and then they never see the light of day and you're like, oh, that'd have been awesome, but no.
Yeah, it was a well done job. I gotta say, you nailed it.
Thank
I
you.
was so happy about it. Anyway, nobody knows what we're talking about. However, they will
I'm not
know.
sure what we're talking about. I get so many jobs where like, thanks, but no thanks. And I'm like, all right, it's fine.
It was all the balls jokes for that Rocket League of mobile game.
Oh, well, they didn't use the ball jokes. Okay.
Yeah. You even channeled Shaquille O'Neal for us within 24 hours, proving that you can indeed match any voice against time.
I mean, you know, I work better under pressure for some reason.
It might be because you gave us, what, 250 lines over
Something
one
like
afternoon. One afternoon, and I was like, this guy is a machine.
Yeah, you kind of have to be. I mean, I've had video game sessions that were supposed to be 4 hours, and they'd give you 400 lines, and I'd knock it out in like an hour, and like, holy crap, dude. I don't want to waste their time. But if you want to get hired back, get done quick because they want to get done. They don't want to have to go be stretch all this out. And I've had other sessions where the director or the producer was just like, let's just do it again. And I'm just like, I mean, I've given you 37 takes. It's 3 words. Like, and then we get. Yeah, we get halfway done in 4 hours, and I'm like, this session should have been an hour long. What the heck, man? I was doing the best I could. And then they don't hire you back. Like, yeah, it was taking too long. I was like, was it? I was taking too long. But you can't say anything because you don't want to leave a bad reputation with the director who might want to use you again either. So you just have to be, you just have to do your best and hope for the best.
What's your record? How many takes for one line?
47.
Wow.
And in that one instance, I won't name names, obviously, but in that one instance, the director stood up for me because the client and the director weren't the same person. He said, we don't have time. John did 47 takes. We do not have time for him to do 47 takes of we have 50 other lines to do. But like, oh, no, because they had put it out there like actor's choice, whatever the actor feels like doing. And I did exactly what I felt like doing. No, can you do it more like, I'm like, you said to do it the way I felt like doing it. But then they completely changed the direction and made me do it in a way that's not natural at all. And then they didn't like it. I'm like, yeah, because it doesn't sound anything like what you asked for, but I'm doing you what you asked for. It's 3 freaking words. And they're like, no, we get the first one down, then we'd plow through the other ones like 1-2 takes. And I'm like, could have been doing that. And guess which take they used? one of the first couple of takes.
Yeah, of course, of
Because the way it
course.
always is. Yeah.
It's what I was telling you. Now that you get my best, why do you ask me for my worst? I mean,
I don't know. I don't know if they think they're just digging for gold somewhere and I'm already gave it to them. All you're gonna find is bronze and copper.
it may stem from insecurity. If you don't really know what you want, it's like, well, we have 2 hours. Let's use them. Let's do more and more takes. Not realizing we had the same in marketing. I come from marketing. We had the same bad habit with data when it came along. So I come from 1998. We didn't have any data. We had to do surveys to even know what we were doing and get a few insights. And then we started having data and then big data. And around 2010, 2011, we started collecting stuff that nobody was analyzing or observing, which makes you ask, what's the point of collecting it in the first place? You just make it impossible to analyze because it's too much now. It's too
like when you
granular.
collect
Too many
Pokemon
data
cards
points.
and you keep getting Diglets over and over again, and you're like, I don't know why. I'm gonna hang on to these. Part of our human brains thinks at some point these are gonna be worth something. Somebody's gonna need this, and we're gonna be the only ones that have it.
Now, for many people, you are primarily the iconic voice for the Honest Trailer series. Actually, both of them. And that is a little bit, I never dare to ask you, so I'm going to ask you on the show. Which one came first? Honest Trailers and Screen Junkies or Honest Game Trailers and Smosh? And how did you get to do both? Were they friends? Who copied the idea of who? How did all that came about? It was legendary, right? It was sensational.
So
I guess for
Honest
you too.
Trailers, Honest Movie Trailers came first. They had already recorded, I think, about 12 of them, and the original voice had gotten called back into active military service. They found me over Google. It was a video that I had made doing different movie trailers. I had done 5 different genres of movie trailers in the same I wrote out a trailer that had a different section. Had one section was horror, one section was like family friendly, one section was a romantic comedy. So that way I could do a full range of movie trailer voices, because there's a lot of different genres of movie trailer voices. There's a romantic comedy voice, then there's the action voice, then there's the family friendly voice. I mean, there's like a whole, there's like a dozen of them.
I think I've seen the video of yours.
Maybe, yeah. So my first manager saw that, and by the time that Screen Junkies had found it, I had already been booking a lot of trailers, and I had added my information to the caption that took you to my website. And my early website looked a lot like Netflix. It's just a ton of thumbnails of trailers that I had done. And if I had found the trailer online, you could click on the thumbnail and a YouTube video would pop up. And they're like, oh, we found you. And you're a real movie trailer guy. That's awesome. Like, would you be interested in working with our stuff? And I'm like, yeah. So I checked it out. I was like, this stuff's pretty funny. But initially I didn't. The first one I did was Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter. No, it was Lord of the Rings. And the biggest negative comment we got was, it sounds too much like a real movie trailer. And that's all I'd done before that. And I was like, oh, I get it. You guys want me to make fun of myself and my own job and make it sound like a fake movie trailer. I get it now. So we did that for a while. And I remember telling the creator, like, you should be doing honest game trailers, because most of these games are so cinematic. You could just cut together stuff from the video game footage and make a new video out of it and talk about how bad or good the game is or whatever. No, we don't really have an audience for that. But they found an audience eventually. By the way, I never got credit for that. So you're welcome, Screen Junkies. But Fi Media at the time owned about 30 different channels, including Smosh and Smosh Games. So it was all in the same family. So they all knew each other. It was all like, oh, we may not be able to put that because we're primarily about TV and movies, but we have a place to put game stuff. So they put honest game trailers over there.
And Smosh was a pretty good place to put
it. Yeah, Smosh was pretty big at the time. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's actually how. That's how, as a gaming fan and a gamer and a gaming industry insider, I found out about you. It's through the organized game trailers. It was a sensation over work in all offices and studios around the world, France, Spain. We were passing it around like.
That's awesome to hear. I've never heard that before.
So. You were making so much fun, and so well. Everything was great about it. You know, your voice. The writing, the editing, it was, I guess, a wonderful team experience as well. I'm sure you guys had fun around work.
It was honestly, it was more fun to do honest game trailers because it was a little more relaxed, and I see why, because they had a much bigger audience with the honest movie trailers. So they had to be very specific and very particular. They let me improvise and have a lot more fun with honest game trailers, which is why I kind of liked it a little bit more. And eventually, the Honest Movie trailers, they started giving me, you know, a little bit more freedom to like mess around and stuff. I'd come up with some funny lines, and sometimes my stuff would end up in the final thing. So it was really kind of a teamwork effort thing. But I was the voice of all the Honest Game trailers up until 2019, and they decided they were going to recast with other voices after they change up in the companies that own them. And unfortunately,
another
because
channel now, right? It's a
yeah,
fandom.
fandom owns both of them now. So I mean, they're still together under one umbrella, but it took a while before they brought me back. So
All right, but you're still doing the Honest Movie trailer.
I'm doing both of them again, but there was a break for about a year that I wasn't doing Honest Game trailers. So yeah.
Okay, so that's why I stopped seeing you in the credits of Honest Game trailers, and so I stopped watching because I'm a loyal fan.
I appreciate your loyalty.
It might also be due to the algorithm in YouTube noting that I was watching it lead. But good to know that the backstory of this is awesome, and you forced me to segue into a question that I had for the end. When I was talking to Santana, it seemed like it's still true for all actors today, voice actors or on-screen actors, that you go through a lot of attrition with auditions and casting and all that. I would assume YouTube played a career-changing role for you, and now that you've done these YouTube things, there is more word of mouth and more people Googling you and finding you, or how is YouTube important for you?
Well,
how important is it?
I'll just be frank, because this is true, and a lot of people. There's a good example of how this has affected the voiceover business in a different place. It used to be considered not a good thing if you were an anime voice actor. They didn't want to touch you for normal animation, because like, oh, you're not a real voice actor, you're an anime voice actor. And it took a long time, and some very big voice actors to kind of break through that stigma and barrier of anime voice actors can't do regular voiceover work for animation. That's, like a normal, like Animaniacs, which is an American made show, as opposed to Cowboy Bebop. They were like, oh, you can only do that, you can't do this. And it just created this, it created this kind of stigma about it. And anime voice actors are like, this isn't fair or right. Like we can do both. But it took Steve Bloom and Kyle Hebert and a few other people to start booking regular animation. Like, oh, they can act. Big surprise. A voice actor is in the title, voice actor. So it was kind of the same thing with Honest Game trailers and Honest Movie trailers. I would go to I'll give you a perfect example. I went to Sony Studios, because my first manager that's what their biggest clients. They actually brought me in to introduce me in person, because he just started managing me, and he wanted to put me in front of some folks. And he's like, your voice sounds familiar. What have I heard you in? I was like, well, I work on this YouTube channel. They basically make fake fun of movies. It's called Honest Trailers. He's like, oh, I've heard that. So you're not a real voice actor. You're a YouTube voice actor. And it became the same exact thing. It's like a YouTube voice actor was considered unprofessional compared to a real voice actor. And that was kind of a really big dig. So for a long time,
Hollywood puts labels on people, right? Coming from, Big Karma is all about pushing for disability inclusion and representation. And so when you talk about labels that are this precise and accurate, and it's like, man, we human beings really like to make differentiations. And it's a conversation I've had with Ben Grubbs on the show from YouTube about how Hollywood missed the boat on to create. They used YouTubers in movies for their influence, 30 seconds here and there, but they didn't realize that this was the new creative pool, and that this was the new generation of creators.
Yeah, we're talking about like 10 plus years ago. And so I kind of just put that aside and didn't mention any YouTube stuff, and just showed them because I was a professional voice actor at the time. I didn't have an agent per se, but I had representation, and I had already been booking a lot of commercial work, and including some real trailers. So I was like, well, if they consider a YouTube voice actor and not a real voice actor, then I'm just not going to tell them about the YouTube stuff. But eventually, thankfully, some people in Hollywood, Ryan Reynolds, decided to collaborate with Honest Trailers on the first Deadpool Honest Trailer, because he's smart and he saw the potential for the marketing, because he saw that there's way more fans available on YouTube, and this is all he has to do is throw down a few lines, and he gets to promote his film to a whole huge amount of people.
Yeah.
That's why Maximum Effort was such a smart idea. He's very good at marketing. He's very good at making commercials that are interesting and not just informative, but they're entertaining as well. So they kind of
Actually, Turkish friends from B Games teamed up with him for some commercials on their Match 3 games. He was insanely wonderful to work with.
I get to work with him in person, so yeah, I completely agree.
And the results were amazing. Obviously,
Yeah, the result, and he
knocked it out
works
of the park.
fast. Yeah, he ducks it out quick. He gets it done, and it's always awesome. But yeah, so they had kind of borrowed from Honest Trailers for the opening credits of Deadpool 1. So we just reached out to him, and he's like, "Yeah, of course, I'd love to." And of course, he promoted it out there. Well, that put me on his radar. And then when I booked the first Hitman's Bodyguard trailers, he recognized the voice, and he was out there promoting it with hashtag Epic Voice Guy because he knew who I was. And it kind of just broke that stigma down. Like, oh, there's this whole other thing there, and all of a sudden it became cool or hip or meta or whatever the term was. And it was like, oh, so if Ryan Reynolds approves it, then it must be okay. And then people started coming like, oh, so you do. And I'm like, well, there's 500 trailers that I've actually worked on that are not Honest Game trailers or not Honest trailer. I mean, they're real and they're out there. People don't understand the difference between the silly, campy, like fourth wall breaking version of the voice and the real version of the voice. It's only a slight difference. But yeah, I am one of the top, well, not top, but I'm in the about a dozen guys who do movie trailers a lot. I'm one of those guys. So but yeah, it just kind of became a thing where I didn't mention it until it became a thing that would help me book more work. And then it became like, especially when they opened up short form internet videos to being Emmy nominated, because we got nominated for an Emmy 4 times. And it's like all of a sudden it's not just a YouTube series, it's a 4-time Emmy nominated series.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, once it became a resume item, then I could be like, hey, I'm also the voice of Honest Trailers, so I had to work on building another resume that had nothing to do with Honest Trailers first. So I was just constantly booking, constantly grinding, just anything I could get out there.
And so when people wonder if awards mean something, yeah, they do. They validate. It's obviously inside baseball. It's not that much. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if the fans are actually influenced by it or not. I shouldn't speak about that. I didn't watch the numbers or the data, but for sure, in the back rooms, people still are, like you said, Emmy nominated.
Mm-hmm. Well, as soon as an actor,
the amount of jobs.
You look what happens to any promotional thing, trailer or otherwise. Once somebody becomes either a nominee or a winner, it goes from starring Matthew McConaughey to starring Oscar-nominated or Oscar-winning actor Matthew McConaughey, because they always add that on there, and they always add the official like Oscar-nominated whatever, like with the copyright image above it. Because yeah, once you get that, it's like, oh, you're not just Matthew McConaughey, you're Oscar-winning Matthew McConaughey. So yeah, it becomes a very big resume item to be Emmy nominated for anything. And even if I'm not directly nominated for an Emmy, the thing I worked on was, and I was a big part of it. So yeah, it becomes something that's a little less than, it's a little more than what it used to be. And it's like, I don't have to be like, oh, I better not bring this up because they're going to be like, you're not a real actor.
Going back to your champion, then I didn't know that about Ryan Reynolds, that he had been so important in your career. In a way,
I didn't really recognize that either, but he really did allow Honest Trailers to break into the mainstream, because all of a sudden big regular studios and news outlets were picking up like, oh, Ryan Reynolds is working. It's so meta that he's working on his own Honest Trailer, making fun of his own movie. And it was really great. And what's funny is, because I do voice match for Ryan Reynolds, a lot of people still come to me as like, so that wasn't really Ryan, that was you. And I'm like, of course it was. Or what?
Yeah, but actually, so let's make it clear for everyone listening. You do voice matching for Ryan Reynolds, Jeff Bridges, and Chris Hemsworth, right? So
a lot, all of the Chris's at one point.
So for those who don't know what this is, every now and then you need a few extra lines from big name actors for the trailer of a movie, or
it's bigger than that.
Yeah,
ADR is a very big umbrella.
Lines, and obviously the big name actors have limited time. They are very expensive. So there are various reasons why at some point you call John and tell him, can you do Ryan Reynolds on this Deadpool trailer? And
like I said, it's bigger than that. It's bigger than that.
Go
it's
ahead,
even when they're actually, so if you've ever gotten a screening for a film where the movie's not finished yet, but they want to put it out to an audience, kind of gauge what they like, what they didn't like. A lot of the voices that you hear in there, even if it's a live action movie, are temporary voices. They're either people that work at the studio or they're people like me. They actually hire to do that. ADR is what it's called. ADR has a big umbrella. ADR covers everything from filling in for actors in the trailers to filling in for them in the films, sometimes the final voices. I mean, there's a really funny GIF out there on Twitter of Detective Pikachu where he's in the cage match and he's curled up into a ball and he's going Pika Pika, and it says, and the caption says Pika Pika in Ryan Reynolds' voice. It's actually me. It's not Ryan Reynolds at all. Because the director actually told me, he's like, we thought yours was really funny, so we left it in. And I thought it was just going to be in the trailers. It ended up making it into the final film. And that's happened before. Russell Crowe, I thought I was filling in for the trailer. I still get residuals because it ended up in the movie somehow. And sometimes
Optimus
it's like,
Prime, right? Optimus
well, I did
Prime
the
in
early
Bumblebee.
ADR. Yeah, I filled in for him for the early trailers. That's one of those where I'm basically the temporary voiceover. So I fill in the lines until Peter comes in and does one session. Or for Ryan Reynolds, I'll do the lines for I worked on Red Notice, I worked on Six Underground. I do the and I've done other voices, the Dwayne Johnson, whoever they need background voices for, and they'll come in and either replace it or they'll surgically put it in, and nobody even notices it's me. And sometimes I'm credited and sometimes I'm not, but I always get a paycheck, which is the most important part. So it's not just
and
the
the
celebrity
illusion
voice.
always works. So you're a heck of a magician.
And it's not just the actors' voices. They need background, just regular background voices. That's called Walla. And there's a loop group that comes in to do all that. So when they film a scene in a show or a movie, all the background extras are not actually saying anything. They may be moving their mouths, but they're only the main actors that are on camera are actually saying anything. So they need voices as a separate track to do all that stuff, just like they need a separate track for the sound effects and a separate track for the music. So they have us come in and do that. And then they slip us in, and they find a spot to put in the background, and they lower the volume down where you can't really hear. But yeah, in fact, I have a friend of mine who literally just goes Walla 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 because it's called Walla, and this always slips in. It works for they use it in anime, they use it in animation, they use it in films and TV shows and in trailers. So it's a little bit of everything, and it covers a big broad range of acting skills, which is a lot of fun. Sometimes it's dubbing. ADR still covers dubbing for like anime, which is more about matching the flaps sometimes than it is about the whole acting and sound alike stuff. Same thing with animation. If the animation is already finished, we have to make sure that the voice and the character matches those flaps. Even because they didn't. Most of the time they record the audio first and then animate it later. Sometimes the animation's already finished, so we just have to like get it to fit. So ADR is a very big chunk of my career,
especially with import animation, I guess, right?
Yes.
We had animation
and
France,
live action,
Japan,
live action, animated, CG animation, like all those things come in because Netflix buys a lot of these foreign shows and they have to dub them into English, for example. So ADR also covers dubbing. It's not just for trailers. It's a big chunk of business.
All right, man. When it comes to voice matching, I always wonder when I watch a Deadpool, so somebody in Deadpool costume on the Stephen Colbert show. But it doesn't take out the costume, so we all know it's not Ryan Reynolds.
It could have been, though. There's no way of really knowing. It could have been a voiceover with just a body double. You never know.
I speak to you backstage making the voices on the
wasn't me, unfortunately. That was actually Ryan's voice. But I did see the video you're talking about.
Okay, so you have a good eye and a good memory for everything that comes out. Then
I think it's great that people question whether it's an actor or not. It's like, wait, is that Jon? I think that's so funny. Most of the time it's not me, but the fact that they think it could be means I'm doing a really good job.
Yeah, man. I pretended to be in some pictures with Phil Hickey at Seriously Best Fiends. He's 7 feet tall, so he's like the White Shack. And whenever there was a picture for Apple or something, I would tell my friends, I'm in it. I'm just, not big enough, not tall enough to next to Phil.
So I don't know when this is coming out, but I literally just auditioned for Best Fiends.
Yeah. Oh man, Neil, you gotta hire Jon. You're next. The next guest on the show. Phil Hickey is the next guest on the show, friend. So
that's awesome.
So he's for sure will. I'm not sure if he was in the audition, but he will for sure watch the Voice. Phil is who brought Mark Hamill to work on Best Fiends and many voice legends. He really has good taste for anything creative. He's one of these marketing guys who doesn't just swear by the numbers. Yeah, right. right. I actually believe so, because not only you do great voices, but you have such a wide range. And
Thank you.
for friends who care about the numbers, he's actually affordable. You're very affordable.
I work within a
friend.
budget. I mean, I can. My manager is. I don't know anything about the range, the price ranges and stuff. I'm just the talent. So I'm just like, I just want to work. I love doing character work. I love working on video games. I like working on animation, anime, just any. But I realized very quickly in this business that you have to be able to do anything. You have to be ready for any curveballs they might throw at you. Even if you do an audition for a character a certain way and they say that, well, we love it, they do the callback, you did it again. They're like, oh, you got the job, you come in. They decide to completely change it when you get there. You have to be prepared for that just in case they decide, well, we decided we want this guy to be a Czechoslovakian accent. Well, I hope you know a Czechoslovakian accent because you've already got the job and now it's going to be like sink or swim. So yeah, you kind of have to, you have to be just ready for anything, So I had to become a Swiss Army knife of voices just to keep the bills paid. Because I'm like, yeah, unless it's a certain type of thing. Like I try to avoid gambling ads. I try to avoid alcohol ads. I mean, they don't have cocaine and meth ads, thankfully. So I don't do like adult like hentai stuff like that. I avoid that stuff because it's not part of my brand. So anything else, I'm just like, yeah, I'm just kind of automatically like Jim Carrey and Yes Man. Okay, I'll do it. So they throw me I've been thrown a lot of weird stuff. I'll be honest, but I'm always like, sure, I'll give it a friggin' shot.
Is it part of what's fun and challenging in the job, the weird stuff, because I guess at some point some things become repetitive and too easy for you. Yeah. Do you like the curveball that might not hit a home run?
Because look, I went through 14 years professionally in this business, 3 years of research and development, so 17 years total experience research development altogether. It's like I have a very particular set of skills, and I was like, why not give me a real challenge? Some of this easy stuff is like, geez. It's like when I go, okay, I'll give you a perfect example. When I live stream, and people are like, "Can you do Stitch or can you do Kermit the Frog?" I'm like, come on, man, this is like if you go to the go-kart and they have the ball cages, they're like pitching out 10-mile-an-hour fastballs, and I'm just like, oh geez, maybe wait for the ball to get here before I knock this thing out of the park. But even then, sometimes you can miss. But yeah, I prefer
Come As You Are from Nirvana on the guitar, right?
Something like that, yeah.
Or like for Cristiano Ronaldo to kick a penalty, or Michael Jordan to throw a free
Michael
throw.
Jordan, can you just throw a ball and can you just do a layup? I think I can handle a layup.
Can you do a free throw? Well, I could dunk from the free throw line. But then they were
like, yeah, exactly. They're like, hey, can you do a 360 helicopter dunk from the 3-point line? That's more like, yeah, you know what? I'll give that a freaking shot because it sounds like fun.
Try and break my ankle.
I'll give you a prime example. You mentioned Jeff Bridges. That was one of those voices where I'm like, holy crap, Jeff Bridges has kind of a normal sounding voice. And it kind of threw me off. It was a curveball I wasn't ready for. I'm like, well, okay. I coined the term revoice engineering because it really is reverse engineering a voice. So I'm like, okay, well, what voice can I do that sounds like that voice? And I had been doing my own impression of Frank Caliendo from Mad TV, doing an impression of shoot, I've lost his name. The big guy from Ace is the Place for Hardware. The guy that's done all the football stuff. I'm spacing on his name so freaking hard right now.
John Madden?
John Madden. So it's Frank's impression of John Madden. And I had noticed that voice, see that voice right there? Here's the guy goes over there, Ace is the Place. But if you tone that down a little bit, man, and then all of a sudden the rug pulled the room together, man, so like Duracell batteries and so on. And thankfully he was doing this cowboy voice ever since he booked True Grit. He did 7 movies where he was just playing the True Grit kind of character and he's just a cowboy with an accent, and it freaking worked. It was just my impression of Frank's impression, So that worked for me for Jeff Bridges. That worked for me for Chris Pratt, which I was like, holy crap, Chris Pratt's like such a normal sounding voice, but I noticed that it sounded a lot like it sounded a lot like Owen Wilson. Like, wow, you just take that West Coast accent and you take the accent away and you give him a little more Southern sound to him. And he's like, Echo Blue, you have to respect these animals. Shoot him up, pow, pow. I'm a cowboy. And then I was like, that's it. And I booked him for 3 films in a row. So it's just whatever it takes. But I love kind of the technical side of figuring out that voice.
I can relate to that in 2 ways. First of all, my ear is pretty good at picking in French who dubs multiple actors. So, for example, the guys who dubs Mel Gibson also dubs Robert De Niro and Don Johnson, but in a slightly different voice. I know Don Johnson is Bruce Willis. Sorry, but I don't know why. I have fun picking that up. Who is who and listening.
I think it is kind of fun. It's like an Easter egg hunt.
Yes. And then the other thing where I can relate, obviously not with voice matching or impersonating. I don't have that skill, but I don't know why. Since I'm a kid, I'm pretty good at picking on accents. So I grew up in Belgium, where we have two languages, French and in the south, and up north they speak Dutch. And obviously, Dutch and French have very, very different accents, and we learn it since we're 6 years old, the second language.
Can you do a Dutch accent for me? I'm curious.
1989 in Amsterdam. Het was het begin van het grootste. There is something so funny for a friend. En français, we speak, from the lips. We speak from the lips, and everything is and we cut the H. So a hamburger with fries.
Yes, exactly.
Where the Dutch is.
But when it's good to know, because when somebody asks me from now on for a Belgium accent, I'm going to do the French one because it's so I already do this one, so it's very easy for me. So, but the other one, a lot of voice actors would hear Dutch and they would immediately do Swedish instead. They'd be because they're just assuming. But there's a great website just for anybody who's interested in
German and Scandinavian languages, the Dutch, and that's why it's so funny.
There's a website called dialectsarchive.com. This is my cheat sheet. So if I don't know an accent and I get an audition for we need a Dutch sound, I'm just like, all right, well, let me go to the accent type in, and then they give you a sample of it so I can kind of imitate it and work on. But some of them I got because of actors. Yeah, and I mean, I got one of my German accents by listening to a certain actor you might know from Django Unchained, because that voice is very easy to latch on to, and I have to do that accent to do this one. Yeah, so it's like
Austrian, then it is. Yeah, it's not from Berlin, that accent.
Exactly. So I use that because, well, think of it this way: if they're auditioning for a German accent, guess what? 99% of people are going to do. They're going to do a freaking German accent. But if I do one that's slightly different, but you're like, oh, I can tell it's got German in it, but it's different than what everybody else is doing, even though it's a little Australian. It's like, oh, that's different. We like that because everybody else is just doing the standard basic German accent like this one, or is that doing the harder stuff from the old? Yeah, exactly. So they either do the soft one or they do the hard one from like Indiana Jones and all the Nazi voices. So I don't want to do the stereotypical thing that everybody else does. So I try to find something that's a little bit
good for you. Good for you.
Yeah, because you have to think outside the box in order to get booked.
Exactly. You have to give it personality too. You never can fall into the cliche, even when it's so easy to fall into it. You have
playing around inside the box is fun. Yeah. But everybody's going to be playing in the box, and the people who live outside the box are the ones that are getting booked. And 90% of the people are going to be just doing what everybody else is doing.
One thing though. So now I'm fluent in Spanish because I live in Colombia, and my wife and kids are speaking Spanish to me. I'm fluent in French, and I know a few accents, a few other accents. I can hear them. I would love to do them. I can never crack them. Or it took me years to crack them. And I don't know for you, but for me, a big point is when I figure out how I'm supposed to position my mouth. The muscles. Sometimes I see
it's muscle memory.
But do you catch sometimes a voice by watching the person talk, by catching he puts his muscles like that?
There's a couple of different ways. One is actually watching. I got better at the Optimus Prime voice by watching Peter Cullen do it, because when he does the voice, he tends to lean to one side of his mouth. Before time began, he leans over here. And then I noticed that he put it all down here in his chest by watching his throat muscles. And I was like, oh, I'm starting to realize that, sometimes it's by hearing another actor who who cracked the code. Maurice LaMarche is an amazing voice actor. You've heard him in Rick and Morty before. He's the voice of Brain from Pinky and the Brain. Yes, Pinky. Same thing we do every night. And he's been doing William Shatner for years. But he pointed out a thing that I wasn't doing when I do a Shatner impression. Shatner has this weird little inhale that he does when William Shatner's talking. that little is like, oh, I never noticed that before until you pointed it out to me. And the same thing with Seth Rogen's. I hear a lot of people doing Seth Rogen's laugh, and they do. This is the standard. It sounds like somebody's trying to start up a car. It sounds like a car trying to start it. But what they weren't doing was what he does at the end of it. They always add that little at the end. And a lot of people don't even notice that, which is a difference between an impression and a voice match. Because when I do my job, impressions are great for things like TikTok, for things like Instagram, for things like YouTube. But there is a difference between an impression and a sound-alike. Sound-alikes have to be literal voice ninjas and slip in. And I use this when I'm teaching voiceover, because you take Arnold Schwarzenegger, for example. A lot of comedians out there are doing the Arnold voice, and they're doing this silly little thing that they do. But actually, Arnold's voice, his voice is down here, actually. And you want it to sound exactly the same as he does. I mean, he still does the same things, but it's right down there. It's not up here at all. Like, that's the difference between a voice match and an impression. And Will Sasso is one of those guys that can do both. Will Sasso's filled in for Arnold's voice before, but he can also do the silly, funny Kermit the Frog sounding thing. But he can also do this one right here. So it's a big difference. It's like when you go to the park or whatever, and they have those caricature drawers, because they're not doing an exact picture of you. They're doing an exaggerated, a giant head. And they're accentuating your features to make it funny and make it entertaining. That's what an impression is, as opposed to voice matching. Voice matching is surgical, and it has to be very precise, or they'll just find somebody else who can do it, because they don't want anybody knowing that the voice
cannot
is
see
in
the
place.
trick. In voice matching, you cannot see the trick. Where impersonation is like, the trick is all you want to see, actually, because it's about comedy. It's not about magic. It's
about entertainment and comedy. Exactly. When you're doing ADR for a film or TV show, you don't want people laughing, being like, oh, somebody's doing a bad impression. Yeah. And sometimes people are obvious to it. There's been jobs where I filled in for somebody because of whatever reasons, and people knew that it wasn't the original voice, and I get a lot of hate comments saying, well, they couldn't afford the real actor, so they couldn't get a decent actor for this, or they couldn't get a good voice actor for them. I'm like, wow. You know what? That's brutal, but they hired me, not you, buddy. So client wins.
When you work on video games, you're not impersonating anyone. You're creating voices.
That's just creating characters altogether brand new. So
what's the process? Is it analytic, or do you analyze, observe, think about it, or is it instinct? Does it just
it's just acting. The only specific things for a video game is that you have to do it slower. And it took me a long time to figure that out. As you can listen to me talking, I give out a lot of information very quickly. In fact, this is me at a low gear. Normally, I'm just ADHDing it out really fast and probably not very organized. But when it comes to video games, I noticed that, and I learned this by actually playing video games, because I love video games. I've been playing them since I was a teenager. So I noticed that they need the voice to be slow enough to keep up with the subtitles, because some people either can't hear or they can't understand it in their language because it hasn't been dubbed into their language. So in order to be able to keep up with how long it takes somebody to read it, they have to read it that slowly to make it fit. So I had to just give it almost an unnatural speed to it. So a normal line would be like, I need to go to the store. In a video game, it'd be like, I need to go to the store. It's just like, it's like half speed for most of it. But the rest of it is literally just acting. I have a grab bag full of characters that I came up with. And it's funny that I'm talking about video games, because creating a character is literally like the character creation screen in a video game. They give you a basic body, and then you decide the skin color, you decide the eye color, the hairstyle, the outfit. You're just taking a basic figure and you're putting layers on it till you come up with a character that you like. And then if it always helps if it's a character that you're familiar with and you've done before, or it's the foundation of it. And I'll give you a perfect example. So you always start with your basic voice. So this is my voice right now. Well, they say they need a Southern accent. Well, I just add a Southern accent onto it. They said they need it to be back in the throat. Then all of a sudden I change it to this right here. And then they need it to be gruff because he lives in a sandplane. And all of a sudden he's this right here. And all of a sudden I've created a whole new character that started with my voice and ended up here. And maybe he's got a thing in the side of his mouth. That's 4 or 5 layers of voice stuff all added to just my own voice.
Do you sometimes go completely the opposite of what the character looks like, and what
absolutely
maybe the director, producer would have
in the auditioning process? Absolutely, because with auditions, you haven't booked the job yet. So you have to have fun. I mean, look, auditioning is like 90% of the job. So if you don't have fun with it, you're going to be miserable. It's going to feel like work. It's going to feel like a grind. And I've been there. Sometimes your just energy level's not there. Sometimes the character just doesn't fit. Well, make it fit you then, you know? And I'll give you a great story. This came directly from the horse's mouth. Rob Paulson is the voice of Pinky from Pinky and the Brain, and is a legendary voice actor in this business. He told me the story about American Dad, which is a Seth MacFarlane produced show. They were auditioning for the character of Klaus, the goldfish. Originally, Klaus was supposed to be French because they were trying to think of what's more opposite than America than France. And D. Bradley Baker, who is also another legend in the business, was there for the same part. And he saw Rob, and Rob saw him, and he's like, "Oh, hey, D." And he's like, "Are you auditioning for the goldfish?" And he's like, "Yeah." He's like, "I don't do a French accent." And Rob's like, "Well, what accent do you do?" He's like, "I do a really funny German accent." So he went in there and made Klaus sound like this instead, and everyone was cracking up so hard that they decided to change Klaus to be German, and that's how he got the role. Another great example is Grey Delisle when she was auditioning for Azula for Avatar: The Last Airbender. Everybody else there, they wanted the character to be angry. So everybody there was doing anger the basic way that everybody thinks about doing anger. Well, they forget there's like 5 to 7 to 10 ways to do angry. There's quiet anger, there's crying anger, there's screaming and yelling anger, there's cold, calculating anger that could freaking kill you in a heartbeat if I really wanted to. And that's what she did. She went with that version, which was very subdued, and it's like, I don't even have to get upset because I can just literally roast you alive right here, right now. And that's what got her the job because she did it different than everybody else did.
That's usually how I threaten in business.
You're
I stay
quiet,
very calm, and I tell you in details what I'm going to do to you. And the amount of details and the calmness in my voice is like, oh, he's not even losing his shit. That sounds
but
like
he's
a
really
plan
ticked off.
Yeah. He's about to press enter on this plan if I don't calm down myself.
He's got a finger on the red button and he doesn't give a crap, you know. Yeah.
He thought about it. I'm going to go to that subway station, buy that baseball bat. You know the metallic one, the red one that you see in the window? If you look through your window, you can see it. I'm going to buy that bat before knocking on your door at this address. You know? And
it's so funny because
all right, he thought about it.
It's so funny because 90 something percent of actors are just they think of an emotion as just different levels. They don't think of it as completely different sounds. They think that there's angry and then there's either loud or angry or there's quiet, but it's more to it than just being angrier or just being this kind of angry to this kind of angry. That's still the same kind of angry. It's just one's a little more energy and more loud. There's so many different other ways to play that. And it's so hard for people to think outside the box. It really, some people get in their own way so much. And the sad truth is they think they're doing great. Man, I nailed that audition. I was so angry in there. Yeah, but you did the same thing that everybody else did. And everybody else was the same kind of angry you were. And you probably just read the lines instead of doing your own version of the script.
It's sometimes you just nailed it. It's oftentimes pandering. So
yeah,
you think the director wants something, you think the producer wants something.
Yeah, you're always trying to think about what they want.
Something.
Yeah, they're thinking about getting booked or what they want to hear or what's going to get them higher instead of being like, you know what, I'm just going to have fun with this and do this different than everybody else is going to do. And honestly, to be honest, though, sometimes it's literally because me and Pascal are buddies, and Pascal's like, you know what, I'm going to hook Jon up with a voice job because I think he's awesome, and I'm a fan. Why do you think they bring in people like William Shatner into a cartoon? Because they want to work with William Shatner, not because he's the greatest voice actor in the world. You know, so I mean, obviously, you know, if I could get Christopher Walken for a project, I would get Christopher Walken for a project. But a lot of the other voices, the background voices or the subsequent characters will probably be friends of mine. So, but there's more to it than that. You don't need to just make friends or be friends with the people who are making things or like already friends with them. You need to already have the skill set required to do the job. Because even if you're friends and you get in there and you're either mediocre or you're just a semi-pro or you're just amateurish, that can get you shelved. Like really, I had a friend of mine, I won't give his last name, my friend of mine named Brian, who I thought did a great job, but they didn't feel like he was ready. And he was friends with the people who made the show. And he got the job, gotten 2 callbacks, finally got booked, recorded 3 to 5 episodes of a huge animated series. And then they shelved him. They said he wasn't ready yet because he just didn't have, they were doing too many takes with him. He was kind of like, I know what I'm doing and I'm doing it my way instead of just following direction and being able to take those curveballs that I mentioned earlier and be able to do it differently. And he was shelved for almost a decade. Just did not get any work in that industry. He was doing other kind of work, but it's like animation. Nope, no thanks. He's still not there yet. You do not want to get blacklisted or shelved as not ready. You need to have that skill set already ready to go. Be ready for anything they throw at you, or else you may not hear. I've had that. I made a mistake, and that happens with people who are even seasoned pros. I had an anime that I was working on with a friend of mine who has cast me before without even having to audition. And I had a bad session. I just was having a hard time getting the character right, and it was taking more than a few takes. I have not worked with him since then. It's been 3 years. So you have to be very careful and always be ready.
There is that quote that they attribute to Evans from Disney in Hollywood, but that actually, I looked it up, and it comes back from Seneca, back in the Roman philosophers era, thousands of years ago. Luck is when opportunity means preparation.
Yeah,
and
preparation's a big part.
Yes, and you better off be prepared for an opportunity that doesn't come than get the opportunity and not be prepared.
That's a great way to put it.
You'll regret it.
Be prepared for the opportunity before it comes is a great way to put it. That's awesome advice.
Yeah. And
I'm stealing that. I'm going to copyright it.
It's from Seneca, and it's 2,000 years old, man.
Well, good. That means there's no copyright on it. So
exactly, it's in public domain. But yeah, it's really the story of all these people who people say, but they got lucky. In a way, yeah.
It's so much more to it.
Gave them a break, but they were ready for the break. And if you're not ready, it breaks you.
Yeah,
because they're not giving you a second shot.
Because for some people,
the Eminem song, right?
Yeah, and for some people, it's like we need to know that you've had 10 plus years of experience, and for other people, it's like we just need to know that you're really talented, not just a friend of so and so. Or I mean, because let's be honest, most of the stuff that gets auditions out there, let's just say, for example, that it's me against Rob Paulson and Maurice LaMarche, and they're only going to submit 2 voices. Guess who they're not going to pick? Because I'm not them. They've worked with these guys before. They got decades of experience. They've got a great reputation. They know they can do the job because they know they can do anything. They're going to hire them. And other times I've had it where it's like my skill set was better for a certain thing than other. Been like, oh, I auditioned for that and I didn't get it. I'm like, wow, you didn't get it. So it's funny how that works. Sometimes it's about the networking connections you have, plus the experience that you have, plus how good you are at your job. And other times it's just randomly, it's purely based on talent. It's just, you never really know. So everybody gets into it a different way, and everybody gets hired a different way. But
what's for sure is be careful what you wish for, because you might
get it and you're not ready for it, and then you're screwed.
Look at Donald Trump being president. Nice.
A lot of people saying this. A lot of people saying, be careful what you wish for. I wish to be president and I got it. I wasn't prepared. Was not prepared. A lot of people says I was prepared. Big people.
A lot of people said I did a great job. A lot of people said
many people said this. A lot of very important people said I was the best.
Did I really want it? I think I just wanted the headline and didn't realize, oh shit, I have to be the guy for 4 years.
I just wanted to get a pen. I wanted to get a tie. I wanted some souvenirs from the Oval Office. Barack Obama wouldn't give them to me, so I had to become president.
I've been looking at your YouTube channel, and you've been playing with deepfake technology in your celebrity audition series, I think is how you call them.
Yeah.
That deepfake technology, how obviously it's scary and creepy to a lot of people for many reasons. How can
but it's scary and creepy in an entertaining way.
Yes. How exciting is this new tech for someone like you? Because you must look at it from a completely different angle.
Oh, absolutely. It's like, oh my gosh, somebody just gave me the keys to Toys R Us. And
yes,
they gave me the keys to Toys R Us when Toys R Us was still open. So it was like, holy crap, I have this whole new realm because here's the thing, when you're making content, when you're making content based on doing voices, a lot of people are doing exactly what I'm doing right now, right here. They're in a booth or they're in front of a microphone with their headphones, and they're just doing the voices, and they're putting up a picture and they're putting up the text of what who the character is. Because sometimes maybe they're not so good with the voice, or sometimes it's just a matter of like, you don't want to say, this is Winnie the Pooh or this is so-and-so. And if your voice is not very good, they're gonna be like, I didn't know who that was supposed to be. But their brain automatically tells them, oh, that's who that is, because I can see the picture and I can read the name and hear the voice at the same time. My brain is processing that that's Willem Dafoe or whoever it is. I wanted to do it. This is a funny reason why I thought that deepfake technology was such a good idea. I don't have to put up the picture or the text anymore. I just throw on the face and they're, oh, I know who that is. That's that guy because he looks like him. But unfortunately, the app that I used was one of a kind app, and it had a very big watermark across the screen, which made it kind of like, ugh. And they only had a certain list of celebrities to use. So I wasn't able to do everybody that I wanted to do, or I had to pick one. I had to learn some new voices because they'd put in people like Steve Carell, who I didn't previously do Steve Carell's voice, but I'm like, you know what? If they've got Steve Carell, maybe I should learn how to do a Steve Carell voice. So, I just had to kind of fit into their box. But then the company went under, but now I have a new guy, and I'm totally shouting you out, bro. So his name is @Rom30, ROM30, and he does amazing deepfake technology. And he recently just did the video with a collaboration with Warp Zone and I, where we did a deleted scene from Spider-Man that went viral on YouTube. And the biggest comment was like, was this really from the movie? Because the deepfake was that good, along with the voice and the on-camera acting part. And the second one was like, is that a Master Chief outfit? Because we couldn't find an actual Green Lantern costume that we could buy. So yeah, it's a lot of fun because it gives me the opportunity to create what I wanted to create all along.
Deleted scenes, yeah.
You can. There's so many. There's just the possibilities are endless. You can make your own thing as long as you're not trying to make it like I am that actor and this is me and I'm promoting a product or I'm supporting a political whatever, or I'm, let's be honest, making pornography with another celebrity's face, because that's the big danger, is people making things where it's the same thing with the AI voice. I even heard my own AI voice on a Red Bull ad. I'm like, Red Bull could have freaking hired me instead of using the bad AI voice that I did. Like, that's not even me, bro. Like, I could have done a better job. So there's people that will take advantage of it and use it for evil instead of good. I use it for entertainment purposes only. And it's very obvious that I'm not the original actor and I'm making something funny. And it's just a way, it's just an extra layer. And I have voice actor friends like,
content.
Yeah. And I have voice actor friends like, I think you should be showing your real face. And you should be, I'm like, I think it's fun. It's fun because it get at the very first, instead of just seeing some random guy that they don't recognize that apparently just looks like Tom Hardy, or in my previous body, fat Tom Hardy. It's like, well, if I look like Tom Hardy, then I don't look like any other actor. But that initial, like, holy crap, is that Willem Dafoe? It brings them in and it keeps them there. And then they realize, oh, this is a funny thing. This is not a real thing. And then they find out the actor. And it also gives me the chance to make more than one type of content, because then I can make what you and I are doing right now, a side-by-side comparison of me without the deepfake and me next to the deepfake. So now I have 2 videos instead of 1. So there's a lot of process that goes into it. Like, how much content can I make with this technology so I don't have to work 10 times harder? Because editing, as you know, takes a huge chunk of time. And finding the pictures and adding in the text of every single character that you do. And for example, for the celebrity audition thing, because my first one, I changed outfits for every character. I was like, this is way too much work. It makes way too big of a mess. So it'd be easier just to put on one outfit and just change the face 10 times. So yeah, it was all that. It was a combination of a new technical toy and saving me some time. So yeah, it worked out really well though.
You're very generous with your time, I gotta say, because you even do things for charity and for your friends. You do voicemails for your friends.
As time allows, yeah.
Maybe you do not anymore, not that much anymore.
Yeah,
but still, I find it amazing that you did. And I still remember that in 2008, I must have called your voicemail 4 or 5 times. Just to
That's
get
what that
my
spam
friends
call was. I was like, why do people keep harassing my phone number?
Yeah, how many people do that to you though? To call just
you're
to
not
hear
the
your
only,
Liam Neeson impression.
Yeah, I'll just see that you're not the only one. But the problem is that voicemail technology has never improved. It still sounds like it's this, even on an iPhone where the quality should be crystal clear. Like, I just don't get why voicemail messages sound so bad. So it wasn't easy to make a voicemail message that was clear enough where it does sound like the actual actors or whatever I was trying to do in the background, as opposed to having like a digital, because the old days you had an answering machine that had either cassette or a pre-recorded thing on it, and the quality was really good. But phone quality has never changed. So no matter how good the quality is on the audio, when they call and listen to it, it's gonna sound like you're going through a drive-through at a fast food place.
Yeah, and I think it's because we still use VoIP technology. So really, through a phone, it's not our voice. It's the
No.
it's voice matching.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
the
it really is.
technology voice matching, the closest thing it has in store. But I don't remember the numbers now. But somebody once told me the range, and it was incredibly low. I
Yeah.
was surprised at how low the range was, and how can I even recognize my mom and he was telling
Yeah,
me
because the
he
audio is
was an
so bad.
engineer, and he was telling me it's because of the emotions and the tones, and because you know your mom so well that you actually it's a delusion. You create
Yeah.
an illusion for yourself that you're really listening to her. But no, technically, if you look at the spectrum of the voice, it's not your mom.
Yeah. And it bugs me too, because when I've worked on toys for like Hasbro, the sound chips were, I think,
Oh
14
yeah,
kilobytes per second. So the audio quality was really low, and it still sounds really good. And I'm like, how can we make something with that low? Because they have to make it as cheap as possible in order to maximize profits. But you can
right.
fit a dozen sound clips on a teeny tiny chip with that low a quality, and it still sounds good, and yet our phones still sound so bad. Like, what the heck?
Yeah. Well, we've talked a lot about your strength. What are your weak spots? What are voices that you just can't pick up for
The
whatever
most
technical
normal
reason
voices.
with
Yeah.
normal voices
It's
is
the
the
most
trick.
normal voices are the ones, because they'll give me some that are just like standard basic voices, and sometimes every once in a while I'll be able to crack it. Chris Pratt had one of those voices where I just felt like that was, and I just had
Yeah.
to find what I call the hook. There has to be some hooks in there somewhere. But some people just don't have any hooks. It's just a normal sounding voice. And it's like, I just can't sound that way. They're natural. I'll
They
give
have
you
a
a good
good
example.
defense.
I've booked it before completely by accident. And I'll tell you the story. And so my agent called me. He's like, "Hey, how do you do Brad Pitt?" And I literally just did that thing from J.K. Simmons from Spider-Man 2, where it's like, "Huh, are you serious?" Like, nobody does Brad Pitt. The only person that comes even close is Ross Marquand, who plays Aaron in Walking Dead. He's a very good voice. He did this great thing for Vanity Fair, where he did Brad Pitt and Harrison Ford, and his Harrison Ford Brad Pitt voices are two of the best. A lot of the other ones are ones other people do, but those two, like, that really impressed me. And but it was still just a funny impression. As far as a voice match goes, it probably still wasn't quite on that level, but it was the closest that I knew. I was like, just hire him. They're like, well, on a scale of 1 to 10, what would you give yourself? I'm like, if I was doing impressions, just funny stuff for a video online, like maybe a 6 or 6.5 if I'm being extremely generous. But on a voice match scale, like a 3. And he's like, okay, I'll get back to you. And then he calls me back up. I was like, okay, you got the job. I'm like, oh, geez, this is going to go so bad. And then the inevitable, we need to hear a sample came up. So I recorded a few lines from Tyler Durden from Fight Club, and I didn't really think it was that good. It was it's a bad impression, to be honest. And then like, okay, we'll talk to you on Tuesday. I'm like, all right. And then I get into the booth, and I instantly realize why they thought I sounded like Brad Pitt so well. We loved your Brad Pitt voice. Yeah, best Brad Pitt voice ever. What did you think, Klaus? Oh, it's the greatest Brad Pitt I've ever heard. Because apparently all Americans sound like Brad Pitt, which is amazing for me. So they just couldn't hear the difference.
You suffered.
It got
It's
me the
like
job.
Hollywood, but Hollywood does that to foreign actors all the time.
Of course
you're
we
Russian.
do.
You
We all
must
forget.
be
We think
German, right?
yeah, people forget that Russia's. I mean, how many accents do we have in America? So clearly, all these other countries have more than one accent too. We all just everybody outside the U.S. thinks everybody inside the U.S. sounds like we're from Texas, when we're not. That's just one part of the country. So we
Oh
have a
no,
huge range
it
of accents here.
depends. I used to think that everybody sounded like L.A., like Los
Yeah,
Angeles,
usually it's either that
American,
standard
because of
basic.
Hollywood. We were getting the
Yeah,
movies, and so many of them were set in L.A.
yeah.
that we all sounded, yeah, man. Which, by the way, makes me wonder, how many times a week do your friends ask you to do the Big Lebowski?
Not very often. You'd be surprised. I hardly ever hear anybody like, "Hey,
I'm
can
too
you do the
old.
dude, man?" And like, people. I don't know if people just don't think about it. Usually, it's Ryan Reynolds' voice. That's kind of because that Ryan Reynolds is so hot right now. And it's always the current trending voices, which I try to keep up with. If they're acting and they're booking right now, I need to be good at it, because they might need to sound alike. So they're not gonna. They don't need a voice match for Walter Brennan anymore, because Walter Brennan's not making films. So it's like, well, that's a fun character that I can do, but I'm not gonna need it.
But
So
only for
until
old
Jeff Bridges is,
friends,
yeah.
only for
And Jeff
old bald
Bridges,
friends like me.
yeah, well, Jeff Bridges has cancer now, and he's not working as much. So it's like,
I'm sorry to hear that. I wasn't
yeah, same
aware.
thing with Bruce Willis. Like I was doing a lot of voice matching for Bruce Willis recently, And I was even asking, like, has he had a stroke? Because the audio quality sounded like he had a stroke. He was slurring his words. He was having difficulty remembering lines. And I found out when the news broke about him having aphasia, every single one of the symptoms described exactly what I was hearing and what the directors have been saying. It's like, oh, that makes so much more sense now. But then he retires, so I'm not going to need a Bruce Willis voice anymore. So you just have to keep up with whoever's currently booking a lot of stuff. And hopefully, you know, if you get good enough at it, you'll become like the go-to or one of the top go-to guys for it.
Please allow me one dumb question for the end.
There's no dumb questions except for this one.
Is it even possible for a man to do female voices in
Yeah, of
voice
course.
matching? So
Yeah, I've heard some very
voices?
impressive. I don't do a lot of them myself, but I know voice actors who can. Yeah, there's a guy named Ruben. He goes by Ruben Voices on TikTok, and he does Peppa Pig really well. I can't get quite as well as he can, but it's like his sounds legitimately real. And like mine are more character voices. Like I can do the old smoker Jewish grandma. When are you going to settle down and give me some grandchildren? Like that's kind of a go-to. And of course the Valley Girls. You guys are so funny. But they're very stereotypical character voices. There's no way I'm going to get voice matches for that. You know, and that's fine because they have women out there that are really good with voice matching. So they should be hiring them, not another guy, especially not another white male. Like white males have dominated this career for way too long as it is. So freaking give them the jobs they should be doing.
This goes back to where we started. There are enough labels and inclusions.
Yeah, we're not Shakespeare anymore, letting guys do every single part, including all the women.
Yeah.
You know, this is not Monty Python.
Right. Although you are that Swiss Army knife that can sometimes save a lot on budget. But
well, yeah,
you shouldn't
don't get me wrong. I still use female voices to create characters with, but I'm not trying to be a female character. But it still happens. Look at Bob's Burgers. Most of the women's voices in that are men's voices. They're not women's voices.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Jon. And
I really appreciate you having me. Thank you.
For people at home, check Epic Voice Guy on YouTube. I guess on TikTok you must be.
I'm an Epic Voice Guy on all the social media. In fact, I do live streaming exclusively now on an app called Pococha, Pococha. You can find it under my link tree, posted in all of my bios. But my main sources are Instagram, YouTube. Well, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, and Pococha.
Epic Voice Guy on all these channels, and to follow us at Big Karma, it's patreon.com/Big Karma. Thank you for your time today, Jon.
Thank you so much. Don't have a good day. Have a great day.
Thanks, Jon. This is it. We've done it. You've been wonderful. You've been absolutely wonderful.
Much.
And
hopefully I did better than Santana.
The sound respected you because we were interrupted only 3 times.
You only cut out a couple of times for me.
One time I almost didn't show you. I don't know. I think I was like,
No, I could tell. I was like, he can't hear me.
Yeah.
I was like, but as soon as I stop talking, he'll know I'm finished. By the way, you mentioned the companies that you work for. I just finished putting Santana's new character demo together. I would love if you could pass it on for me because I think she'd be great.
Sorry, you would love.
I just finished Santana's demo. Our character demo, and
so you'd like to see a video of an episode, is what you're saying?
No. I finished creating her character demo of all her character voices. If there's any way you could pass that on to your folks.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah, she'd be fantastic working for you guys.
Did Super Evil Megacorp get back to you, Kevin? I don't think so. Right?
I don't think so.
For Metal is Black? No.
This is not ringing any bells. Sorry.
All right. I'm helping them with a few things at the moment, and he was shopping for voiceovers, voice actors, and they're really audiophiles.
You can find me in the discount
sound of the game is done really. I gave him your email address, but in a Slack,
that happens a lot. But nobody ever comes contact me.
He might have lost it, but I would insist. I'm still on the team. I still speak
to be fair,
every week.
Yeah, to be fair, my email went down for like 3 weeks, so I'm sure I lost a lot of information, and it was a nightmare. It come to find out, it was a simple domain name issue, and once I renewed it, everything was cool. But I'm so glad somebody didn't swoop in and take epicvoiceguy.com and ruin my email from ever being used again.
Man,
so, but now I'm all good. So maybe hit him back up for me. I'd appreciate it.
Should have done that and blackmail you because you have a particular set of skills, but you are not Liam Neeson, are you?
I can be.
I'm not Liam Neeson, but I play him on television.
Yeah, but I'm gonna tell, because it might be that you lost your email exactly during the time frame when I told him. So I'm gonna tell him that you lost your email and that if you didn't get back to him, that's the reason.
Appreciate it. And I'll
find out. I speak to him every week. And then I'll show Santana.
I'll email you the demo. I think you'll really like it.
And actually show her to Best Fiends as well. They're good people.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah. All right, man. I'm gonna definitely show both your episodes to Phil Hickey because he's the next one on the show anyway. So awesome. That's why I shouted him out, because it's so funny karma that you just.
There you go. Well, it is big karma, so there you go.
Yeah, exactly. Cheers, my friend.
Right, thank you so much. You too. Bye bye.